1 minute!
So next up we have Mia. Mia from Taiwan doing a 66-meter dive. The announced dive time of 2:25, and it is another national record attempt for her.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. Look at this. You see right here where that broken image is? That's supposed to be the Taiwanese flag, but they just took it off. It's like this kind of stuff that Taiwanese athletes have to deal with all the time. Look at this. This is the Taiwanese national baseball team playing in Taiwan. And even when they play here, they still have to call themselves Chinese Taipei. I've been living in Taiwan for 18 years, and every time I hear somebody say Chinese Taipei, it always makes me like a pause. And for a long time, I've wondered, like, where did it come from? And also really, like, how does it make Taiwanese people feel?
Action. Okay. What do you think about the name Chinese Taipei?
Maybe a little disappointed. Yeah.
不喜欢这个称呼，我觉得蛮奇怪的。
觉得没办法让更多人认识我们。
It's a fiction. There's nothing. There's no place called Chinese Taipei.
是被迫 ，we are forced 来叫台湾Chinese Taipei。我们多么希望是用我们正式的国名。
台湾没有办法，台湾这个名字不被认可是一个国家。
如果我们叫 Chinese Taipei 的话，很像是我们是一个地区而已。如果我们是叫台湾，那我们就会是一个国家。
More and more people feel like we are Taiwanese, not like Chinese people anymore.
我是台湾生的，我是台湾人，我清清楚楚知道台湾独立对台湾是非常有利的，但是很难。
所有人，包括中国，包括我们，都不认为台湾是中华人民共和国。但我们为什么会走到 Chinese Taipei 这个？它不是一个 misunderstanding， 它是一个 political power 的结果。
The more that I dug into this, I realized that there is so much more to this story than just the name. But to really understand it, you have to go all the way back to the Chinese Civil War. In 1945, a brutal civil war erupted in China, with the communist-led People's Republic of China fighting to take control from the Kuomintang, the KMT, and topple the Republic of China. It was the PRC versus the ROC. When the war finally ended in 1949, the communists took control of China, and the KMT relocated to Taiwan and maintained the ROC governing system. Even though the KMT had retreated to Taiwan, they still believed that the ROC was the rightful ruler of China, and that one day they would go back and tear down the communist regime. This created a challenge for the International Olympic Committee, because there can only be one team per country, and both the PRC and the ROC laid claim to represent China. Initially, the ROC was recognized as the one team for China, but in 1952, in order to appease the Chinese Communist Party, the Olympic Committee demanded that the ROC use a different name. The KMT could not accept the demands and they withdrew from the Games. And in 1952, China competed for the first time in the Olympic Games as the People's Republic of China. From today's perspective, it might seem strange that the KMT was so adamant about their return to control China. But this was the beginning of the Cold War, and anti-communist sentiment was at an all-time high around the world.
Everyone knows that there is a separate government in Taiwan which is recognized internationally and specifically by the United Nations, consisting of the governments of the world. Your government is not recognized by the United Nations.
By the Summer Olympics of 1956, the communists boycotted the Games and throughout the 1960s withdrew from international sport altogether. Without Chinese opposition, the ROC was allowed to compete in the Olympic Games for nearly a decade, and they quickly and commonly became known as Team Taiwan. The KMT leaders hated this, and they insisted that the team be known as the Republic of China. They knew all too well how important international representation was for the survival of the ROC. Everything changed in 1971 when China was admitted to the United Nations and Taiwan was
The
expelled.
United Nations General Assembly voted last night to admit Communist China and expel Nationalist China. The moment was a turning point in history, foreshadowing vast changes in international relations.
Right away, China demanded that Taiwan be taken out of the Olympics, which created this dramatic scene at the Canadian border just days before the 1976 Olympic opening ceremony.
Is Canada prepared to allow a Republic of China team to participate in these games under that name?
We are not prepared to have public proclamation in Canada of anybody purporting to represent the Republic of China.
Taiwan team, the Republic of China. What was your reaction to the news that Canada was not going to allow you folks to represent China?
I didn't expect it to be like this at the last moment.
So you had no indication at all, or your government had no indication at all that Canada was going to resort to this?
No, we didn't have any indication.
If IOC has any guts, they should stand up to the Canadian government and say, these people are going to race, are going to march, are going to do everything according to our rules.
The International Olympic Committee did not ban or ask Taiwan not to take part. They would not, the Republic of China, change their name to Taiwan.
We announce that the Republic of China Olympic Committee cannot accept the proposal put forth by the Executive Committee of the International Olympic Committee to change the Republic of China name to Taiwan.
It's a really incredible moment in history that the Olympics insisted that Taiwan compete as Taiwan, but the KMT demanded to be called the Republic of China. The Olympics tried to arrange a meeting between China, the ROC, and the Olympic Committee. But once again, the KMT leaders refused to enter into talks with China and wouldn't attend the meeting.
We have not had any official communications from Taiwan.
Shortly after this, it was determined that Taiwan could compete in the Olympics, but only if they called themselves Chinese Taipei, fly a non-political flag, and they will never be permitted to play the national anthem of the ROC.
Representing Chinese Taipei, Chu Mu-Yan.
下台了，然后就觉得很兴奋。那等一下如果要受访要说什么？可是一坐下我就觉得我想要让大家知道说我来自台湾，因为我或许是第一个可以这样对世界说的选手。
好，朱木有一个陈志新了，果然在第一天拿下了一人。
Man, when we won the champion title, the whole street was like, yeah, right? I mean, this is how we want to express our love to our country, Taiwan.
自己一个人的历史之外，我觉得也是国家的一个运动的历史。那对我来说，它就是非常深重的一个意义。
最重要的价值叫做 fair play。fair play 有两个意涵，一个意涵是we play against the other with fair play， 但另外一个意涵就是我认为你跟我是平等。
老师好。
好。
Hello。老师镜头过来。So I'm Jeff. I'm the owner of a sports company. We are doing the training for the athlete and also do the sports event. So Professor Lin is a chairman of Chinese Taipei Handball Federation, and also he's a professor in National Zhengzhi University Law Department. He's so famous for all the policy and also the law related regulation about sports because he understands the culture, also the industry of sports so well.
所有的对手都认为你是台湾，只是你被迫冠上一个怪异的名字在你的衣服上，这就是台湾我觉得运动选手的处境。但你为了参加比赛，你为了有机会，你会接受这个。我个人觉得对运动有很坏的影响，那个影响就是只要能够参加比赛，只要能够 play，I don't care about fair， 那个不重要。我觉得那是一个很严重的扭曲。
this will not only affect sports, but also the identification of people in Taiwan. So in the deep side of the heart, this will affect everything.
When I was a kid growing up in the US in the 1980s, a lot of my toys, I remember they said, made in Taiwan. Taiwan sounded like this faraway, interesting place with cool toys. And I remember around that same time watching the Little League World Series, and the Chinese Taipei team just destroyed the American team. And I thought Americans were the best at everything, and I was like, who is this Chinese Taipei? Where is this country? I want to know more about it. They're really good at baseball. I knew who the winners were, but I didn't know where they were from. If you don't really know of anybody as being Taiwanese, if Taiwanese people aren't like people to you, then the Taiwan question becomes, a lot more abstract. If you know that person who performed better than anyone else in the world, if you see them do that and you know that they're Taiwanese, that'll affect how you think about Taiwan. So really what this is all about is erasing Taiwanese-ness and dehumanizing Taiwan.
One thing that is really important is to try to get a sense and understanding of what do Taiwanese people think. I want to hear Taiwanese people express their opinions their own way.
但是因为我这个在淘宝，我可能比较不方便回答这个。
The way that we thought that we could do that is to go to different places around the city and just ask some people some really simple questions. What do you think about the name Chinese Taipei?
但是我们台湾人当然会希望可以拥有自己的国家的名字，然后在运动的赛事上出现。
其实我们一直是被压着走，一直被打压着，所以我们不得不屈服在某些条件之下。
就是如果我们真的更名叫台湾的话，代表我们就是一个主权独立的国家，才可以用台湾这个名字。那当然，中国那边绝对不会让这件事情发生，所以我想这也是一个我们目前的困难点所在。
There was a referendum question in 2018 that asked Taiwanese voters, do we want to try to change our name to Team Taiwan instead of Chinese Taipei? There's many reasons that the referendum got shot down. Most people don't want to rock the boat and find out that, oh, now we can't compete in the Olympics.
所以我们不能够轻易的更换名称。对，那当我们如果放弃了名称或者是更换名称，他们就有机会就觉得你违规了，这个我觉得是一个非常大的风险。那如果我们真的被抵制了，我们如果真的不能参加了，那我们这些选手怎么办？他们现在都在努力当中，还有我们很多教练，还有很多项目，他们都是为了奥运会。那我们这个我们之后会更难让世界看见台湾。
就算我们叫 Chinese Taipei， 至少我们还可以在运动赛事上，就是让其他国家看到我们。可能台北他们就可能会去查询说台北是哪里，那可能也会借此认识台湾。我觉得至少让我们现在可以出现在赛事，这是一件好事。
Pushing to change the name from Chinese Taipei to Team Taiwan, that could result in, China, which has significant sway over the International Olympic Committee, potentially making a move to push Taiwan's representation out of international sports altogether.
我们有选手比赛，然后比赢了，然后他就拿出国旗就绕场，结果最后飞机他们就终止比赛，然后飞机遣返回国。这个事件就是大家就会知道这个的严重性。对，因为当有违反这个规定的时候，他们是可以取消你比赛的资格。
So if you look at the WBC World Baseball Classic hosted in Taiwan in this March, you hear people say Team Taiwan, Team Taiwan. Okay, I think these say something.
When I was at the WBC, I heard the chanting Team Taiwan, Team Taiwan. I felt like so great. I feel the Taiwanese are really loving the country, loving the team.
I was almost crying because people try to use Team Taiwan to show the world where we are from and who we are. I feel like after COVID hits, all the other country knows the difference between Taiwan and China based on how we react against COVID, right? That's why China is eager to show people, listen, I am the one who has power, right? Because they cannot compete against Taiwan with integrity, trust, friendship. The only way they can show the world they still own us is you want to show the power.
Having lost representation at the UN, this is something that, you know, this is deep in the Taiwanese consciousness, I think.
联合国成立以后，世界上的国家有大有小，有强有弱，有以前的 empire， 以前的殖民地，但联合国之后告诉我们，全世界的国家都一样平等。如果我们有国家面对别人就说你是我的，我在国际上不让你有平等地位，这个是我觉得是一切问题的根源。
A new flag fluttering at UN Plaza added credence to China's status as the third superpower.
Think about children or, you know, sports fans around the world who, you know, just like the Taiwanese athletes, in a way they're being denied the opportunity to connect with Taiwan. We don't get to appreciate the things that Taiwan is good at. And, you know, that erasure of Taiwanese-ness and Taiwanese identity obviously serves political goals for Beijing.
I have so many friends from China. When they came to Taiwan, they see the election of Taiwan. Oh, they are so exciting. Oh, they say, I hope I can select the president one day in China. I said, don't say that in China, though. You'll be killed. They know. But when they came to Taiwan, they are so excited about the election. You know, this is the nature of people, nature of human, right? We need freedom, we need rights. But China is such a country, try to change all the nature of things to be, you know, their way.
台湾在民主化之前，都还是纠结在那个 One China policy。They are not China problems. They are only one China. 民主化之后，台湾变了。中国今天没有民主化，它仍然必须坚持这一个。我觉得这才是一切问题的来源。我们必须去面对这种很奇怪的尴尬。台湾很多人相信，香港很多人相信，中国一旦民主化，我们今天的问题就不是问题了。
Do you think will Taiwan ever be allowed to call itself Taiwan?
When?
Will.
I think so.
Think so?
I think so. I think this will take maybe 2 decades.
我认为如果可以改变当然是最好，但是现在会影响到我们出赛的权利的话，我觉得这是我最重要的一个价值。对，如果即使你改变了名字，我们没办法参赛，那这个名字也就没有意义了。
4 centuries of colonization will force you to deal with some unpleasant realities and try to find the best way to live under those circumstances.
所以我认为台湾在改变，因为世界在改变，中国在改变，这个影响也会影响台湾人。台湾如何看待自己，如何看待世界？
Taiwanese aren't victims. They have their own agency, and you know throughout history they've done what they can to advance their own cause.
所以这是一段遥远的路程，我们要勇敢的走下去。但至少we should make our mind clear. 一定要想清楚。然后这些问题才有办法去面对。
At the diving competition, the day that they removed the Taiwanese flag from the live stream, all of the other divers actually got really upset. And so the next day, for the final day of the competition, all the other divers had their flags removed in solidarity with the Taiwanese diver. This was a really important demonstration of how athletes around the world can show their support for Taiwan.
Chinese Taipei. Extremely impressive night for Chinese Taipei.